Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. If you are new, please do hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and leave all your thoughts in the comments below. We're going to cover Nick Ball versus Brendan Figueroa the morning after, as well as go through a few headlines that have circulated over the weekend. Some interesting people to talk about. Daniel Dubois, Fabio Wardley, something about Noel McKaylee and Ajay Pataya, as well as talking about Bakhram of Josh Kelly. But we're going to start with Nick Ball and Brendan Figueroa. So some interesting things to talk about in terms of Nick Ball and Brendan Figueroa. Obviously, Brendan Figueroa securing that knockout victory yesterday in the 12th round. A hell of a fight. I mean, Nick Ball has never been in a fight like that. We all know that's the type of fight Nick Ball would strive at, but to be outworked, to be dominated by Brendan Figueroa for the best part of the last 6 rounds was something that we weren't expecting. I think everybody could agree that although we know Brendan Figueroa likes to be on the front foot, likes to hunt down his opponents, Nick Ball would be strong enough, would have the power to keep Brendan Figueroa off him for a lot of the fight. And it would be a very, very close fight, but one that you'd hope Nick Ball was going to be winning, him having the home advantage, him being the world champion, him being probably the more natural at featherweight. Obviously, Brendan Figueroa became a world champion in the 2 divisions lower. So for Brendan Figueroa, I mean, what a fight. And like I keep saying, it was old school Brendan Figueroa. And I want to start with the scorecards because it has been something that's sort of circulated following the fight, because when you listen to the commentary, when you see the person that was scoring it on the commentary, he had Nick Ball up by, I think, 1 round going into the last. If not, lots of people had it very even. But then you look at the scorecards. If you haven't seen them, they are going to be up on the screen. The first judge had it 106 to 103 in favor of Figueroa. The second one had it the exact same, 106 to 103 in favor of Brendan Figueroa. And then the third judge had it 107 to 102 in favor of Ball. So you can see how hard this fight was to score. But more importantly, you can see that unless Nick Ball was able to do something outstanding in that last round, which means knock out Brendan Figueroa, Figueroa was always winning that fight. It was almost the icing on top of the cake getting the knockout, because goes to scorecards, he won. But don't let it get to scorecards, win by knockout. And both ways, you would have won the fight, which sort of puts the icing on the cake for Brendan Figueroa, and a great performance. And I say a great performance by Figueroa. You need a great dance partner, and I think people will need to look at that as well. It takes 2 people to make a great fight. All right, you look at Canelo and School. School came to spoil the party. Canelo wanted to go in there and win that fight. And in the end, you get a shitty fight that nobody wants to watch, nobody wants to remember. This fight here, although there always has to be a loser, unless it's a draw, there always has to be a loser. On this case, it's Nick Ball. The guy brought the fight. The guy put on an entertaining fight. Unfortunately, this time he was just on the wrong end of it. And Brendan Figueroa, I mean, one hell of a performance. And another thing that has come up is the punch stats from the fight, because they are interesting, especially when you look at the scorecards and you look at the way the fight. I'll put the punch stats up on the screen. Now, in a fight where Brendan Figueroa is on the front foot and he's pushing Nick Ball back against the ring, and on the scorecards, Brendan Figueroa is winning, you fully expect him to have led the punch stats. But Nick Ball actually outlanded Brendan Figueroa. Nick Ball threw 567, landing 249 at a strike rate of 43.9%, compared to Figueroa, who only landed 214, but threw 757 at a strike rate of 28.3%. And I think the judges obviously, although Nick Ball, we could clearly see, was landing his strikes more accurately, he was probably landing the bigger shots early, and he was more clinical with his punching. The fact that Brendan Figueroa was consistently on the front foot, the fact that Nick Ball was consistently on the ropes, and the fact that Brendan Figueroa was consistently throwing, the judges can sometimes not actually see which punches are landing and which punches aren't. They can just see the arms moving. Because if you've ever sat ringside or sat close enough to the action, it's a very different angle to what you're seeing when you're seeing it on the big screen. The big screen follows the action. The big screen always is there for the best angle of the fight, whereas the ring judges stay stationary as the action moves around them. So what they're seeing, especially when somebody's up against the ropes, is Brendan Figueroa on the front foot, pushing a guy up against the ropes, and his punches throwing. Now, I say all this in terms of describing the fight. In the end, it doesn't actually fucking matter, does it? Because for all we can say about who should have been leading on the scorecards, who was winning that fight up until this point, the fact is Nick Ball got flatlined, and Brendan Figueroa, no matter what, emerges the victor. And for Brendan Figueroa, It was the type of performance that we were used to, that we sort of stopped seeing for a while. I always talk about the Fulton fight because he tried to switch it up, and then we saw that Joe Gonzalez fight, which he tries to, he goes with his new manager, he goes with his new trainer, tries to rediscover that old Brendan Figueroa. Doesn't, comes on late and probably finds it in the last few rounds, but early wasn't there. This one here, he sort of still starts off slow, but I think we saw that Brendan Figueroa emerge round 4, round 5, whereas Joe Gonzalez, we saw it round 7, round 8, and for that reason, we thought Joe Gonzalez won the fight. But for Brendan Figueroa, I mean, we've just seen an almighty performance against a very hard-hitting and very powerful Nick Ball, a world champion Nick Ball, in a division that Brendan Figueroa has quite a lot of options to pick from, whether champion or not champion. Brendan Figueroa has a lot of options, and I guess there's one guy that we all want to see, Shushu Carrington. He also called out Figueroa following the fight. I think he called out Nick Ball before the fight even started. He says, I want Nick Ball next. Him himself thought Nick Ball would win, but Figueroa versus Shushu Carrington is a very interesting fight, and it's a very good time to make that fight because you got Shushu Carrington, a guy that's just knocked out Carlos Castro to become a world champion, and you got Brendan Figueroa, who just knocked out Nick Ball to become a world champion. So you got two guys in their prime, two guys that are saleable, two guys that everybody's going to want to see, and you put these two together, two guys that have secured late knockouts against each other. I mean, it's an almighty fight, and Turki Al-Sheikh has already expressed his desire in making a Brendan Figueroa fight. He came out and I think he tweeted this or Instagram, whatever it was, that he wants Brendan Figueroa to be on the Mexican card September 12th with Canelo Alvarez. Now, I mean, September 12th, ultimately, the problem I have with September 12th, it's probably a small problem, but it's a problem nonetheless, is we're in February. I like to see these guys fight 3-4 times a year. If we see him fight in February, we see him fight in September, we're only going to see him twice this year. All right? Look, if it's Figueroa versus Shushu Carrington in September, I think I can live with it because it's a unification fight and it's a massive fight. If it's a not as big a fight in September, I kind of want to see Figueroa fight again mid-year. Like we look at Naoya Inoue. Naoya Inoue was the undisputed champion of the world. Still is. He fought 4 times last year, and they weren't easy fights either. All right, one fight he gets knocked down in. One he goes up against MJ Akhmadaliev, the guy that was supposed to be that boogeyman. So for Brendan Figueroa, I would love to see him fight 3 times a year. If he's going to take that September 12th date, I want to see it to be a big fight, and I want it to be Bruce Shushu Carrington. What's the next headline we should talk about? Let's talk about Jai Opetaia and Noel McCallion, because the WBC, Mauricio Suleiman, has told Sky Sports that he absolutely plans on having Opetaia versus Noel McCallion. Now, Opetaia, he's a good fighter, a good champion. Noel McCallion is a very dear friend and our champion. So if they plan on doing that fight, we are supportive. If they want to promote a WBC championship, of course, as a boxing promoter, if they do it within the rules and procedures, they are more than welcome. If Zuffa decides to participate in the normal landscape as it is, more than happy, more than welcome. If they continue to try and do their own league with their own belt, I wish them luck, but boxing does continue. Our policy has been to try and make the best fights possible for the industry, for the promoters, and for the fighters, as well as the fans. Now, for me, this continuously just reflects on what Zuffa Boxing wants to do. There is no reason that WBC, IBF, WBO, and all these other organizations don't want the best of the best fighting for them. All right, they want to see these Opetaias fighting for their belts, holding their belts. I'm sure the IBF love having Jai Opetaia as their cruiserweight champion. Zuffa Boxing, it's just not clear at all what Zuffa Boxing are doing, because they announced their plans to do Zuffa Boxing with the ring belt and their own belt, no other belts. Come the first event, they are open to doing unifications and fighting under governing organizations. What does that mean next year is going to look like? What does that mean 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years are going to look like? For me, if I'm Zuffa Boxing, if I'm Dana White and I'm trying to plan out how I'm going to create this organization, there's only one way it sort of works in my head. And the way it works is you get everybody fighting for all the belts. All right, build yourself a roster, get everybody contracted to Zuffa Boxing. these Jayapatais, all these world champions, all these guys that you want fighting under your organization, all these guys that are the best of the best, sign under your organization and then hit the switch and say, we are no longer fighting for these governing bodies. The governing bodies can do fuck all. Zuffa Boxing contractually has all these names, and they're going to do what they like with these boxers. That is ultimately the dream plan for Zuffa Boxing, in my opinion. Obviously, they set out their thoughts early of, we're going to only fight under the Zuffa belt. Unfortunately, it doesn't work like that, because a belt that nobody knows, a belt that nobody's fought for, a belt that nobody has seen, who's going to sign for your organization to fight for that belt when we have that deep history, that deep-rooted history of being undisputed, unified, all these belts, 3 belts, 4 belts, the ring belts. So I think it is a building process. Ultimately, for me, I would love Zuffa Boxing nothing more to just have their Zuffa belt as almost a 6th belt. I like the WBC, I like the IBF, I like the WBO, I like the WBA, I like the ring belt. Sure, you want your Zuffa belt as well there. Add that into the mix. But yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of eliminating all these belts. I think there's good history. I think it opens more opportunities. You know, when you have one belt, the benefit is you have one world champion. You know who the best of the best is. But you also open yourself to favoritism. You also open yourself up to, you know, people being excluded that really should get that opportunity. I mean, if you're a follower of the UFC, you look at things like how long John Jones held that belt for when Tom Aspinall was trying to get a bite of that apple and couldn't. All right, if you're a current fan, you know, you look at Arman Sarukian. Arman Sarukian is trying to fight the champion, Ilia Topuria, but for whatever reason, although Arman Sarukian threw away his first opportunity at fighting for that belt, I think everybody unanimously knows he is the best in that division. He should be the one fighting for that belt, and instead we're seeing Justin Gaethje probably get that next opportunity when Arman Sarukian probably deserves it. And for what reason is probably a little bit of favoritism as well. So things like that. If you're a follower of the UFC, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. In terms of boxing, think of it the way Canelo Alvarez was being able to hold on to that belt for ages before, you know, without having to fight David Benavidez. Things like that. Currently, I'm just trying to think of an example currently. You know, Mario Barrios fighting Manny Pacquiao and fighting Ryan Garcia. Things like that. WBC as well, doing Keith Thurman versus Sebastian Fundora when you have the WBC interim champion sitting right there in Virgil Ortiz, not getting that opportunity. Things like that. When you have 4 organizations, 5 organizations, these guys that are being excluded from one governing body has the chance to become a world champion in another governing body. So it's interesting. Everybody's going to have their opinion. That's my opinion. I like the fact that there's multiple belts. We'll talk about Bakhram Murtazaliev, and then we'll finish with Fabio Wardley. I'm just going to end up almost like a podcast. So I'd love to know what you guys think in the comments below. Do you like this longer style video? Do you like me covering a few topics in one? I'm always open to suggestions on what you guys want to see. I am trying to work on getting some collaborations with other creators on this channel, so we're going to see how that pans out this year. Hopefully we can get it done early this year. It might be late this year. It might not be till next year. We are a growing YouTube channel. I think we hit 500 subscribers, so thank you to everybody that is subscribing. I'd love to push for 1,000 by the end of the year. I'm greedy, I know, but what can you do? All right, Josh Kelly versus Bakhram Murtazaliev. Bakhram has officially asked the IBF for an immediate rematch with Josh Kelly. Now, I'm someone that Bakhram Murtazaliev, for me, has no reason to not deserve a rematch. And I've always sort of been on that thought train. I know some people don't like it. If the champion loses a championship fight, but he's held the belt for a while, for me, they always deserve an immediate rematch. All right, I think we hold this fact that they lost a little bit too heavily. Like Nick Ball versus Brendan Figueroa. If they tomorrow came out and says Nick Ball is going to have a rematch with Brendan Figueroa, I wouldn't really have any complaints at all, because Nick Ball's held that belt for ages. He has one off night and all of a sudden he's thrown into the trash heap of not worthy to be a world champion anymore. I mean, he's beaten everybody else that they've put in front of him. He's beaten 3 other guys that were supposed to, you know, take that belt off him. He was undefeated up until that point. It's sometimes very rough for these champions to then be thrown into the shit heap of not getting another title opportunity. Sometimes these guys don't deserve one, and I think it's a case-by-case basis. Bakhram Murtazaliev versus Josh Kelly. it's an odd one because Bakhram held that belt for ages, but he wasn't active. And at the same time, the fight, if they did a rematch, the first fight was close enough that you could say it could go either way. All right, Bakhram and Josh Kelly both secured a knockdown. They went to a close decision. It was close enough to say that if we fought this fight again, you could expect a different outcome. You know, I've seen plenty of fights over the years where the title fight is so one-sided that it's like there's really no point of rematching it, like Canelo versus Skull. All right, we spoke about that earlier. Once again, you'd never rematch that fight. Not only was it a boring fight, but it was one way, and it's a nothing fight to rematch. Very different circumstances. Obviously, that was to become undisputed. But for this one here, Bakhram Murtazaliev, he's actually asking the IBF for a rematch of a very unique set of circumstances. Now, he's claiming that the unusual scoring of the 12th round by one of the judges is the reason that he wants a rematch. Now, Steve Gray, judge number one, he scored the final round 10-10. Now, that ends the scorecard for him 114-113. Now, the unusual scorecard of it not being 10-9, if he'd scored at 10-9, that could have swayed either way. But if it swayed the way of Bakhram Murtazaliev, you get a very different scorecard because you take 1 point off of Josh Kelly and all of a sudden you're at 113-113, 111-115, 113-113. You end as a majority draw. Obviously, the last judge, Judge 3, Pavel Yardini, he scored the last round exactly the same. He scored the fight exactly the same up until the 12th round where he scored it a 10-9 in favor of Bakhram, scoring it a 113-113. If he's too scored the last round 10-10, it would have been 114-113. A bigger win for Josh Kelly. So the fact that this judge scored at 10-10, Bakhram has taken not lightly and wants a rematch for that case. Now, super welterweight is absolutely stacked. And for Josh Kelly, he's looking at opponents such as Boots Ennis. Apparently, he's got a contractual fight with Boots Ennis. Whether that emerges as truthful, whether that emerges as going to happen, we're going to have to wait and see. But I'm not against a Josh Kelly versus Bakhram rematch because, like I said, I think the fight could be just as good. I think the fight could be the same. I think it could be different. I think we could get a different outcome. If Josh Kelly goes and fights Boots Ennis, I expect Boots Ennis to win that fight. I don't see when Bakhram then gets his shot again at a world title after losing it. So that's where it becomes very complicated. Ultimately, if the best are fighting the best, if Josh Kelly goes and fights Boots Ennis, I could care less about Bakhram. If Josh Kelly goes and fights somebody that we're not really interested in seeing him fight, then yeah, I would prefer to see the Bakhram one. So Josh Kelly versus Boots Ennis is a much better fight than Bakhram, in my opinion. Last headline, Fabio Wardley versus Daniel Dubois have been in heavy talks, according to different sources. Now, it's an interesting fight, isn't it? And I'm not sure whether it's a good fight. I'm not sure whether it's a good fight because, for me, I like people that earn a world title shot. I don't know what Daniel Dubois has done to earn a world title shot. All right? He loses to Usyk the first time. Understandable. Usyk is the greatest in the world right now. You back that up by beating Miller, you beat Hrgovic, you beat Anthony Joshua. You have done nothing short of earn yourself a world title shot. To go and knock Anthony Joshua out, that's a big statement. You deserve that title shot. It's 3 wins in a trot. You deserve that. We haven't seen anything from Daniel Dubois since July, getting knocked out in a few rounds by Alexander Usyk. We haven't seen a keep busy fight. We haven't seen a let's get back into it fight. We haven't seen a fight announcement. We haven't seen anything. What grants him this opportunity at a world title shot, apart from the fact that Daniel Dubois is probably the biggest moneymaker Fabio Wardley can pick? You hear the names that Fabio Wardley and his team are looking at. One was Tyson Fury, stricken out of the record. One was Derek Chisora, stricken out of the record. One was now Daniel Dubois, option. But all these guys, English fighters, money makers, none deserving of a title shot. That's my big issue with this, is none of them are worthy of a title shot. They're going to get the opportunity because they are money makers. They put on a big sort of card in England at a big stadium. They sell it out. People get behind it. It's a domestic grudge match. It's a domestic dust-up. And that's the fact these guys are going to get that world title shot. I think it speaks probably more volumes to the heavyweight division right now and the options that are there, because there's not many. We always talk about the heavyweight division. It's supposed to be the king division, but there's not much there at the moment. There's a lot of young guys that are probably not ready for a world title shot. There's a lot of old guys that are well past a title shot. And there's a few guys in the prime that are sort of not fighting. We've got Alexander Usyk with most of the belts, looking at weird options, Wilder and those types, Andy Ruiz. We've got Fabio Wardley looking at a domestic dust-up against guys that have basically all lost their last fights. There's one guy, and I don't know what he needs to do to get a world title shot. I don't know who he has to impress, what he has to do to get a world title shot, and that's Ajit Caballero. This guy deserved a title shot already. He still deserves a title shot. Everybody he gets put in front of, he demolishes, and he can't get a world title shot. And unfortunately for him, he might be too good and too scary to get a world title shot, because people don't want to fight a guy like that. People don't want to fight a youthful killer. He's not young, but he's not old. He's really in his prime, Ajit Caballero, especially for a heavyweight. And, you know, the way he's cutting people down, the way he destroyed Makhmudov, the way he destroyed Sanchez, the way he destroyed Zhang, the way he went and destroyed Kaneba. 4 fighters that, you know, people have changed the storyline after the fights, but don't forget the storylines going into those fights. Makhmudov was that sort of undefeated monster. So was Frank Sanchez. Zhilei Zhang was this big power hitter that was too big for him. You know, Kaneba, I always expected him to beat and do it quite easily. But he was still an undefeated top-ranked fighter, a tall, unusual, unorthodox fighter. And he went and beat them all. So for Ajit Caballero, he needs to... I don't know what he needs to do to get this world title shot. Fabio Wardley, do I like the Daniel Dubois fight? I actually think if we just take the fight, regardless of what they've done, whether they deserve this title shot, if we get Daniel Dubois versus Fabio Wardley, I expect Fabio Wardley to win it. I actually do. I think Fabio Wardley has a determination, a grit, a heart that Daniel Dubois just doesn't have. All right, and we've all seen the headlines of Daniel Dubois being a quitter over the years, the Joe Joyce fight, the Usyk fights. I mean, we know the storylines that circulate around Daniel Dubois, his mentality, his heart, and everything else. Whether those are true, whether those are false, whether, you know, everybody's going to have a different opinion on it. One thing you can't say is Fabio Wardley is not the most hardy heavyweight in the world right now. All right, the shots he's taken from Joseph Parker and still kept going until the final bell, until he knocked out Joseph Parker, was unbelievable. The beating he got from Justice Hooney and found a way to knock him out, that's the sort of character we're talking about. We're talking about a athletic power hitter with no quit, and that is a tough task for anybody. That is a line, all right, that Fabio Wardley is, and I'm just not sure, as good as Daniel Dubois is, Daniel Dubois probably the better boxer, do you have it in him? Because everybody that Fabio Wardley sort of comes up against, we say that they're a better boxer than you. And guess what? It means fuck all. It's meant fuck all up until this point, and it probably will continue to mean that, right? Fabio Wardley fears no man. He was hunting for Alexander Usyk, all right? A brave man, all right, that picks up the gloves at 21 years of age, wanting to jump in that lion's den against the undisputed king. So, Fabio Wardley versus Daniel Dubois, it's a big fight. It sells out a massive stadium. It's probably a very entertaining fight. It's probably a great fight, to be honest. If we're going off that basis, yeah, I'm going to sit and watch it. I prefer that over Chisora. I prefer that over Fury. Daniel Dubois, he still has that good run in him. He has one unlucky performance against Usyk. I can probably live with it. I didn't want to see the Chisora one. I didn't want to see the Fury one. In terms of the opponent I want to see is Ajit Caballero. I want to see Ajit Caballero against Usyk. I want to see Ajit Caballero against Fabio Wardley. Everybody else in the heavyweight division, I mean, you look at the rankings, there's not a lot there. There isn't. I'm sorry. Like, let me get up the top 10, or the top 15 in the Ring magazine. So the Ring have it: Usyk, Wardley, Caballero, Daniel Dubois, Hrgovic, Zhang, Bokoli, Atalma, Jagvar, Torres, and Garciev. Now, For me, this is not a great heavyweight listing. It's just not. All right, you might have a different opinion. For me, this is nowhere near a 60s or 70 and 80s heavyweight listings. All right, it's nowhere near it. It's got no depth to it. It's got some guys that you know will beat everybody else, and a few guys there that, you know, if they get in there with the best one, they're not even going to be close. And what I mean by that is Usyk beats them all clinically. Then you've got a few there that beats everybody else on this list quite well. And then you've got a few guys there that are in there, and it's like, why are you still in there? Filip Hrgović is a good heavyweight. He's a good heavyweight. He's not a great heavyweight. He doesn't beat any of the big names, but he's a staple piece. And I think he's a good test for people to break into that top 10. You beat Filip Hrgović, you've got to have something about you, but he's nothing exceptional. Zhili Zhang, I mean, he's 2 out of 5 in his last few fights. He's 40-something years of age. He hasn't fought since losing to Caballero by knockout. He's not going to do anything different. For me, he should retire. Martin Bakole, last few fights haven't been great. That Joseph Parker defeat, there's a few circumstances circulating what happened in that defeat, but he didn't really cover himself in glory in his comeback fight. Moses Atauma, I mean, he's number 7, and he's really not fought anybody to really vindicate a 7th placing. All right, he's got hype around him. For me, he's probably the most talented heavyweight in the world right now. He's going to become a world champion, but the fact that he's 7 speaks to the volume of the depth in heavyweight rather than to what his ability is, because he will be the number 1 heavyweight at some point. No doubt in my mind. Just right now, beating Mike Balayan, beating a Dillian Whyte, is what I mean about the heavyweight division right now. It's not filled with talent. And F.A. Ajagba, a good heavyweight. He's a good heavyweight. Do I ever think he's going to become a world champion? Probably not. We're going to see him fight Charles Martin very soon. See how he goes with that. Richard Torres and Murat Garcia. Richard Torres, a good youngster as well. 20-something years of age, 26 I think he is. He's going to be one of those future names at heavyweight. How well he can go, we're going to have to see as he gets tested and tested and tested. It does seem like he's taking on Frank Sanchez. And Murat Garcia, he got a good win in his last fight, but he was also losing up until that point. He got the knockout. So, yeah, for me, Fabio Wardley's options are limited. I guess I just want to see Ajit Caballero in one of these fights, and for whatever reason, he's not getting it, and that's probably what bugs me the most. If you remove Ajit Caballero from the rankings, just say he doesn't exist, Daniel Dubois is the most deserving out of the list, which speaks a lot considering he's coming off a brutal knockout loss to Alexander Usyk. All right, guys, let me know in the comments below what you guys think of this longer style video. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I'm out of here, guys. See ya!